crying at the moment.
I know the feeling.
for absence, please.
Apologies received from Councillor Barker, Chair.
Thank you. Other apologies. Now, item 2 then, declarations of interest. Members are requested to declare the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interest and or other interests not already on their register of interests in any item on the agenda and withdraw from the meeting at the appropriate time. Move to item 3, minutes of the last meeting. So can we approve, please, the minutes of the meeting held on the 30th of September 2020? Do we have a proposer, please?
Yes.
Armitage. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second, Chair.
Thank you. All in favour? Thank you, and that's carried. Thank you. So item 4 then, reports of the Internal Audit Consortium Manager. So over to you, please, Jenny.
Thank you, Chair. Jenny Williams, Internal Audit Consortium Manager. So this report summarises the audits that we've completed since the last meeting, and it also gives you an update on the progress on our 2021 Internal Audit Plan. If you turn to Appendix 2 of the report, this period we've issued 5 reports, 4 that have received substantial assurance and 1 with reasonable assurance. Those are our top 2 categories, so it's an excellent set of results, particularly at these difficult times. I don't, as a consequence, feel that there's any particular issues that I need to bring to your attention. We didn't identify any fraud. So the next part of the report is the progress on the 2021 plan. And Appendix 3 of the report shows you what's in the plan and what we've covered. So we've issued 9 reports to date, and we've got a further 6 audits in progress. I have had a mid-year review of progress with the plan with the Section 151 officer, where we discussed any potential risks arising from COVID-19. At this point in time, we feel that the current plan is still appropriate, and we will gear our testing towards ensuring that COVID-19 hasn't detrimentally affected the controls in place. If any significant risks do emerge, we still may need to vary the plan. But given the current situation, I feel that we're making reasonable progress on the plan, but it is likely that some areas we will need to carry over to 21-22. So the recommendation is that the report be noted and that the impact of coronavirus on our ability to complete the plan be noted and approved. And I'll try and answer any questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? No, that's straightforward then. So we move to section 6, which are the recommendations, which are set out at 6.1 and 6.2. Do we have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Clough. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Armitage. All in favour? Thank you. Those recommendations are carried. So staying with the internal audit consortium manager for the next part, please. Audit recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so the purpose of this report is to try and provide some details on the number of audit recommendations that we've made and that we've implemented, and to try and flag if there's any areas of concern. So Appendix 1, that provides an overview, and you can see that from 2018-19, 93% of the recommendations have been implemented. So we've just got 9 out of 134 that are outstanding, and none of those are high priority. 80% of 19-20 recommendations have been implemented. So whilst you can see there are still some to be implemented, there are none that are high priority. And I would also like to add that it should be recognised that due to COVID-19, it will have had an impact on officers' ability to implement some of these recommendations, or just to ensure that the form's updated. The next pages in the report provide details of the areas that have outstanding recommendations, and also again shows the full picture for the current year, where we've issued 9 reports, 8 with substantial and 1 with reasonable. Pages 26 to 32, they detail every recommendation outstanding, along with any comments that managers have had to make. So again, given the current circumstances, I think that the progress made is reasonable, and I'm happy to try and answer any questions. Thank you.
Any comments or questions? No, just one from myself. With regards to the business continuity and emergency planning, I've noted that its priority is set down as medium, and the original target date is April 2020. Given that you've mentioned COVID and we are where we are, will that priority be revised, and will the date be brought forward? Because I think business is particularly concerned at this moment in time.
Yeah, I think business continuity plans are something both the executive directors have been looking at, and certainly something we'll be trying to look at and get a full picture of in the new year. So we will discuss those and check that they're up to date.
So in answer to my question, will the priority target be changed to high?
Until we sort of review an area again and look at it again, we don't automatically update the priority at that point in time. But when we review it again, and if it's not been implemented at that stage, then we would look to moving it up to high.
I'm getting a no then. So can this go on the next agenda, please? Because I think business continuity plan is absolutely vital for North East Derbyshire district, and I think the fact it's only medium and we're leaving till April 2020 in my submission is not urgent enough, and it should be put onto the next agenda, and then we can look at it in a bit more detail.
I mean, the April 2020 is when it would have been implemented by, so it may be that the officer just hasn't updated Perform at this stage to say that that's been completed.
Yeah, no, I'm the Section 151 officer. Can I ask you to just come in on this, please?
Certainly, Chair. Maybe a way forward, Jenny, is that this should be maybe moved up in the plan. You know, the review of the plan. If business continuity is obviously a priority this year, and there has been quite a lot of work done, maybe an audit of those business plans is timely. Would that help, Chair? I think so. I hope the committee would support that. I'm sure people would agree that business continuity is absolutely essential.
Yes, I agree with you, Chair. It's absolutely essential. There are companies going bust left, right and centre, and we've got to keep a hand on this. And it is very important and should be done with the utmost speed.
Thank you for underlining the point, Councillor Armitage. Councillor Shipman?
Are we supposed to get these on a regular basis? Like, how often are they reviewed? Because I know you're saying they might be increased when they're reviewed. Is it every 6 months, every 3 months?
Yeah, we do get them on a timely in a timely way, and the next one was going to be 6 months' time. So we were going to look at the end of 6 months, but I'm just drawing out from the plan something that perhaps needs a bit more immediacy.
Yes, Chair, we can have a look at business continuity arrangements after Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other comments from anyone? If not, then can we move to the recommendations at 6.1 and 6.2? It says that a further update be brought in 6 months' time at 6.2, but of course we've just added an additional one, which is 6.3, that the business continuity plan be brought to the next meeting of this audit committee. So with that addition in mind, can we have a proposer, please, that those recommendations be accepted? Thank you, Councillor Rowell. And seconded by Councillor Armitage. All in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you, Jenny. And we move to item 5, then report of the information engagement and performance manager on the council plan targets. So that's Amar. You're on mute though, Amar. I didn't think we'd still be saying this after all these months.
Again. Okay, thank you very much, Chair. This is the Q2 report from July to September for the council plan targets. Just to note as well that there is a review going on at the moment, the reason being 1.2, a number of the targets have been selected for review due to the impact and ongoing challenges of COVID-19. There has been some housekeeping undertaken, so some removal of operational targets that overlap, and the report is going to go to Cabinet in December. So what I intend to do, if it's okay with the meeting, is to go through the summary of the targets by theme, and there's also an appendix that highlights all the targets if there's any further information required. So for the first theme, it's our economy. In the theme, there are 29 targets in total. 9 of the targets are on track. 17 targets are under review, as noted above, and the 3 targets that have been affected by COVID are the 4 Eco 13, hold 4 events annually with further and higher education establishments. So as you can imagine, with the COVID restrictions, this has been difficult. There are going to be invites. There was an invite to a virtual jobs affair, which was successful, and further events are being discussed with universities. Eco 14, so deliver the Avenue Schools Challenge annually. So again, with the schools being closed and due to Kia withdrawing their support, the schools involved are being supported by linking them with other development sites when the schools are able to consider site visits. And the final one for this theme is Eco 20, review resources to ensure tourism is the focus of the economic development team by April 2020. So there's just been an initial delay caused by resources, which has been COVID related. There are 2 interns that have been recruited to the post to support the tourism role, and subject to any COVID and any restrictions, they should be in post by December, January time, and there is the longer term resource provision will be included in the restructure of the economic development team. So moving on to the environment theme, there are 16 targets in total under the environment. 5 targets are on track, 3 are under review, and there's 1 target that's been placed on alert. So an alert is where we anticipate that the target won't be met within the next 6 months, and it's just to raise awareness that it might need an extension. And this is to deliver 4 proactive planning enforcement exercises per year. So the planning enforcement team continue to work proactively to address environmental issues that arise. However, delivering proactive enforcement exercises are proving difficult at the moment due to enforcement capacity and recruitment issues. So this target is unlikely to be met for 2021. And there are 7 targets under the environment theme that have been affected by COVID. So the first one is publish the adopted planning enforcement protocol by the 1st of April 2020. So protocol has been considered by council and it's due to be rolled out in Q3. And again, COVID affected. The following one, complete the review of planning enforcement resources by the 1st of April. So again, this stems from the one above, and again with a similar update in terms of the delay caused by COVID. Environment 08, so develop a climate change communication strategy by March 2020. So again, the communications team have had to prioritise the COVID awareness. So they've requested an extension to April 2021 to be complete, and this target will go to Cabinet for approval. NV 09, to develop and deliver 2 climate change community information events per year. For the school climate change event was postponed due to COVID-19, and with social distancing in the school timetable, it means it's not yet possible to confirm an additional date. And again, with a similar in mind, deliver 1 climate change training event for parish councils per year. So this has been affected by COVID as well, and it is scheduled to be delivered at the District Parish Liaison Group on the 26th of March next year. The following 2, increase the number of fixed penalty notices for litter and dog fouling by 20% and undertake 15 litter picks at Love Where You Live initiatives. Both of these initiatives have been temporarily suspended due to the outbreak. Moving on to our residents theme. So there are 30 targets in total, 12 targets are on track, 6 targets are under review to go to Cabinet, and there are 12 targets that have been affected by COVID-19. And again, I won't go through each one of them, but a lot of these, being under our residents, is about leisure and leisure facilities being affected. So the first one is about, whilst ensuring high quality leisure facilities, reduce the annual subsidy year on year. So again, the leisure facilities opened on the 25th of July with COVID restrictions, and they're operating within the guidance. So again, it wasn't a full quarter of them being open. Similar with increasing participation, this has been affected. RESO4 deliver a health intervention for 258 new attendants per year. Again, with the lockdown, most of the scheme has been inactive. There was a target in place of 64, and we've managed to hit 8 in this quarter. But again, with facilities opening today, there's a plan in place. RESO7, deliver additional lunchtime or after school PE clubs for at least 6 schools per year. So this has been affected. Moving on to the communications, similar with the communications team, commence direct electronic communications with at least 1,000 residents by December 2020. So the council is investing in an electronic messaging service and undertaken relevant training in October 2020. Currently, there are 5,000.
Sorry to cut across you. We've got all this in the report on page 35.
Okay.
Are you reading what's on page 35 to us?
Yes.
Right.
Is that how you?
Well, I'm going to contend that we don't need you to read out page 35 and 36 to us. We've got it all listed.
Okay.
Would you mind perhaps if we took comments and questions at this stage rather than you reading the report that all councillors will have read?
Yeah. By all means, I can just give a conclusion and then open it for. Yeah. So out of the 105 targets in total, 42 are on track, which is 40%. 25, which is 24%, have been affected by COVID. 1 has been achieved behind target. 8 have been achieved previously, and there's 1 that's on alert that's unlikely to be achieved in 2021. So yes, I can open up for questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Any comments or questions from the committee? Councillor Armitage.
Thank you, Chair. It's to do with 1.3 Eco 14 about Kia withdrawing their support. Will they come back with support for this, or do we have to look for somebody else in the future?
Do you have an answer?
Again, I can find the answer, Chair, and respond back to yourself and Councillor Armitage.
Thank you. I think from my point of view, I think Kia had put that on while they were doing the development. I think in terms of the project itself, there were some question marks over it because the idea was to support North East Derbyshire District schools, and I'm afraid the schools involved weren't all North East Derbyshire District schools. Some were from Chesterfield Borough, and questions were asked about the appropriateness of that. We wanted district schools in there. So that was one of the areas that we were going to review in any case. So I think if we look to see if there's any more support from business with regard to a school challenge, would be welcome in any case, because I think it's important in terms of promoting interest in industry and so on. But we must make sure, this is my opinion, I'm sure people agree with it, that they're district schools.
Okay, I agree with you on that. District schools only.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Rowe?
Thank you, Joe. I'm just picking up on the bit that he was reading out, resolution 10. How does it? What do we mean by an electronic communication? Is that text message system?
Yes, I'm over to you then. Resolution 10 on page 35, the direct electronic communications.
I think that's a suite of, again, I would have to speak to the communications manager. I think that's a suite of emails and also MNS and direct messaging of that type in order to make contact with with residents. But again, I can get a fuller explanation for you. And I think,
I'm going to bring Lee Hickin in.
yeah.
Go to you, Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it directly relates to the purchase of a system called Granicus. That's the latest system we've got. It basically, are you familiar with tell us once and things like that, where systems work and communicate together? So once you've registered, you're pulling information from all over the place. So it kind of works as a holistic system, if you like.
Right, okay.
Is registering for certain services, not talking to each other. Granicus allows us to communicate openly outwardly with our customers and also pull together relevant information for them when they dial in through that system, if you like, so they can access all sorts of things. It's something county councils had in for a while, and it seems to be really successful. So we've gone through the process of procuring that, and we'll be installing that soon. In terms of other things that are associated with that, we've been moving a shift towards electronic communications or transferring as many people who are happy to do that online for many months, and that's grown exponentially. You know, I've not got the figures at hand, unfortunately, but we've moved a hell of a lot online, particularly some of the heavy inquiry, the things that kind of clog the phone lines up, if you like missed bins and such things as that. So it's all interlinked, but that one in particular relates to this Granicus purchase.
Thank you. I think my only concern was, as we know, throughout the district, there are people that aren't very IT savvy, computer, you know, etc. And they won't just be lost. I think that was my point. They're going to be able to use the services as we ordinarily would do now. I think that was my point. So,
yeah, if I can answer, Chair, could I?
Yes, please. I would say it's an important point. So yes, I think it would well be, because there's people like me that still use quill and parchment. So I'm interested in the response.
You and me both, Chair.
Yeah, that makes three of us, because you're right. What this allows us to do is create additional capacity for those people, whereas people who are happy to, and you'll know many of them, who are more than happy. In fact, it's their preference to do things online. You know, I've got one parent that does that and one parent that doesn't. So there will always be, this is not a way of eradicating the traditional. What it does is frees up time to be able to deal with the traditional, and perhaps even give them more capacity to do it by moving some of the others online.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That's reassuring. I think obviously there's got to be a mix. You know, we're living in the 21st century, but of course we also have to think about the cross range of residents who aren't all IT literate as well. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Shipman?
Yeah, it was just, you know, on that M13, the target seems a bit back to front to me, because the target there is to increase the amount of fouling offences by 20%.
Yes.
Rather than, surely the target should be like reduce dog fouling by 20%, or
I think increase the number of fixed penalty notices issued by 20%.
Yeah, that seems to me like the wrong target, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Like, it's supposed to be, the target needs to be, what the issue is, that there's lots more dog mess. The target needs to be reducing that dog mess, not fining people. Ideally, we want less fines going out, because that means that dog fouling is reduced.
Yeah, I agree with your point. Amar, you got a comment on that?
Again, these are set. Yeah, again, these are set by the environmental health managers as well. I suppose it depends what your perspective is, I suppose, in terms of increasing you can work both ways. I know we hand out dog fouling bags as well, and it's just being proactive and reactive.
I think the point, I'm sure Councillor Shipman won't mind me underlining it, is that by increasing the number of fixed term penalties for dog fouling, you're almost implying that we're getting better at catching people dog fouling rather than reducing the actual dog fouling itself. So the success would be a reduced amount of fixed penalty notices, because dog fouling is on the decrease. I think that's the upshot of it. I'll bring Lee in.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, absolutely get your point, understand it completely. It's a bit like the fly tipping and waste. So yes, of course, we want to reduce the offence happening in the first place, and some of that's about communication. Some of it, though, is about the threat of enforcement, and it's the enforcement side of the ambition of the council, if you like, to get better at enforcement that's driven that particular KPI. But it's not a single, it shouldn't be viewed as one single objective. You know, it's more than that. We prefer it if we weren't handing any out, but we've got to be keen. Our customers and our communities would want us to be enforcing against those who are ignoring things.
Yeah, I think luckily, according to this, dogs don't foul during COVID, so so we're okay. No, I think the serious point is, I'll come to you in a moment, Councillor Armitage. If environmental does look at that, the wording around that, and perhaps look at a KPI that perhaps better points to the success of decreased dog fouling in the district, rather than taking more people to task.
I guess what you'd monitor, Chair, is how many reports of dog fouling you got, and hopefully that decreased. Because if that's decreasing, then that means it's appearing to be less of a problem for people. That seems like a KPI that I'd follow.
Yes, I think we'll take that into consideration. If we let environment come up with a sort of a remodelled KPI, shall we say, we can look at it next time it comes back to us. Councillor Armitage?
Yeah, just to take the point that we're handing dog fouling bags out, I inquired and I was told that it had now been stopped. And the other thing is, there'll be far more dog fouling incidents happening because more and more people are walking and they're taking the dog with them. And I found that all around Ashover. And when they have taken a bag with them, you find it chucked in the hedges rather than taken away. And, you know, it's just one of the things that seems to be happening. More and more people are walking and they're taking their dogs with them.
Thank you for that insight into dog fouling in Ashover. So, thank you. So, I think the point's been made. So, we'll look at that KPI, please, so that it can be better measured. From my point of view as well, I think I was disappointed to see M05 on page 34, Environment 5, about proactive planning enforcement. I think we all, as district ward members, will know that planning enforcement is something that's extremely important. And I'm sure the committee, again, will help me to underline the point that we need enforcement in the district. And to say that the target is unlikely to be met for 2020-21 is disappointing. It is disappointing. So I'm sure that environmental services, I know there's issues around recruitment and so on, you know, that's accepted. But I hope that there'll be additional thought given to recruiting enforcement officers. It's essential. My other one is Environment 08, develop a climate change communication strategy. Extension is sought at Cabinet for April 21. Climate hasn't stopped just because of COVID. And again, we are still dealing with climate change issues throughout this. And I know several parish councils are still thinking about climate change issues. I know 3 where around myself that are still developing climate change strategies, working on action plans and so on. They haven't stopped because of COVID. So why is district signalling that it has? I'm a bit concerned to read this. So is there an officer that can explain that? Lee?
Thank you. So yeah, I agree with you. Climate hasn't stopped. In fact, we've made some good progress. There is any particular silver lining in terms of carbon reduction throughout this period. One thing I can add, with obviously not in the performance report, and only because a sort of recent intervention, we as North East Derbyshire have come up with 3 schemes that we'd like to roll out county-wide. One is a major campaign called Thanks a Ton, which is aiming at reducing household emissions by 1 tonne per household within the next year. And rolling that county-wide, obviously, you can understand the potential. The second one is around hard-to-treat homes, but dealing with that on a county-wide footprint and accessing government funding to be able to do that. And that really is millions of tonnes of emissions and the potential for a national flagship scheme there. And the third one is around a coordinated approach to electric vehicle infrastructure charging across the county. North East Derbyshire are leading on these 3 projects, and we've got support from across the county that they want to piggyback and be a part of this. So that is good news. But I accept the point about the communications strategy. I'll see if we can bring that forward a little bit sooner than that, because it is important. The biggest impact we can have, we've done so many things internally, but the biggest impact we can have is actually outside of our organisation. So I'm happy to take that way as an action for myself. If you're happy to give me that.
You. No, thank you very much for sharing that information, because it shows that the district is addressing large ideas to combat climate change and difficulties around that, but we don't seem to be making that public knowledge, so therefore the communication strategy is going to be key. So if that's brought forward rather than what's been suggested here, thank you for taking that as an action. My other one is services on page 36, SER 12. Car parking patrols are undertaken outside schools, temporarily suspended, apparently because of COVID. Well, schools are still operating. Car parking issues outside schools in this district is still a major problem. I think everyone on here can point to a primary school in their ward, Calo, Hollymoorside, you name it, where there are car parking problems. And the fact that we started well with dealing with car parking patrols, which was well received by residents, stopped because of COVID. Well, the car parking issues, as far as I'm concerned, the ward council still haven't gone away. I think it would be a good idea to see how we can get back on track with all of that. Lee, can I ask you to comment on that?
Yes, you can, Chair. By all means, I'll have to take it away. I don't know a great deal about it, but I can certainly feedback the feelings of this group and yourself, and see if we can turn that around and see what we can do. I'm not sure how reliant on others we are, but I agree with you entirely. You know, the schools are still open, travel will be an issue, so I'll see what we can do about that, Chair.
Yeah, the reason I'm bringing it up now, because we're coming up to winter, nights are dark, there's more likelihood of a car parking issue, a child being injured because of dark nights around schools. I just think you know, it's something that's important to me, but I'm hoping the rest of the committee will support that. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Shipman?
Thanks, Chair. Just back on the climate thing, I don't know if anyone saw it was worded as a consultation on climate change that we've recently put out, but it was one of the worst questionnaires I've ever seen in my life, and it didn't actually ask people what they thought about, like, what they, you know, and did they have any ideas? How could they help? It was very much, are you aware of climate change or something? Do you know that heating the home is the best way to heat home? And it was very bland for starts, and it was more the council asking people what they knew, really, rather than, you know, can you contribute and feed into some kind of report or something at the end. It just seemed very bland and like didn't really achieve anything. In fact, I shared it around a bit, and then I almost got a bit embarrassed once I actually been through it myself, because it just didn't achieve anything. So I just wondered if that's been looked at, and actually is there going to be a more wider reaching consultation that's actually going to bring people in, like you say, Lee. I mean, it's people ultimately that are going to drive this. they're going to have the ideas. There's probably people that are more educated in this field than me or anybody else sat in this meeting, and then it's wasted talent. We really need to get them involved rather than it being the council talking to people rather than listening.
Will the head of page service comment again?
Yes, no problem at all. I'll pick up your last point first, if I can, Councillor Shipman. So I agree with you in terms of everyone doing their bit is where the real impact is going to happen outside of legislation and things like that. So the Thanks a Ton campaign is very, very much aligned to that. So it helps people. There's an emissions calculator in it where people can tally up. There's a quick lookup reference table within the actual landing page that people can pledge to do simple things like turning the heating down by 1 degree, 156 kilos of carbon saved per year, those kind of things. And this is more about that engagement. The survey that you're speaking of, I'm not absolutely intimate with it, but I do know it was for a particular reason, and it was more about getting in our environmental health team in making contact with people who needed support and help, rather than thanks. You know, hopefully some really big wins at the end of that one.
Thank you.
Cheers, Lee.
Thank you. I think on behalf of the committee, thank you, Omar, for your report. My only comment finally is that 25 out of the 105 targets have been registered as affected by COVID-19. That's nearly a quarter. In my submission, there are quite a few in there that if we were to trawl through and go back to the officers concerned, we could turn the status away from being COVID affected. Now that we know, for example, that 2 interns have been recruited to support the tourism role, we can change that coding, for example. There's others in there that I think a conversation with the essential officers about the communication strategy for climate change, we can change all those codings from purple to either getting back on track, or the reality for some of them will be behind track, or maybe it's just not relevant anymore and would therefore be under review. So I think status could be changed. So I think that's an exercise for you, Amar, to challenge officers and ask them about COVID affected. Is it really COVID affected? We can't move any further forward, or can that status change to what it ought to be?
Yes, Chair, I'll note that and the other points that you've raised for the next meeting with the performance manager.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
So unless there's any other comments or questions, we move to recommendations at 6.1 that the quarterly outturns be noted for these targets. Can we have a proposer, please?
I'll move them, Chair.
Councillor Shipman, thank you. And seconded by Councillor Armitage. All in favour? Thank you, that is carried. So we move now to item 6, report to the Director of Corporate Resources and Head of Paid Service. Over to you, please, Lee, on risk management.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to members of the committee for inviting us along to do a report. So the purpose of the report is basically to provide an update on the risk management arrangements and the strategic risk register as things stand today. So I know within your pack, you've got the risk management strategy attached. I don't intend on going through that, but that was approved by Cabinet in March 2020, and there has been some delay in getting the actioned, if you like, because it was all hands on deck COVID during March, and it has been since. So although, like I said, it was improved in March, it took us until summer to get the inaugural meeting of the risk management group together, which we've done now, which is good. And at 1.9, I've provided an update of what that risk management group has been doing and looking at. We've got the second meeting either next week or the week after of this group. So I will hopefully by the next time we get to this next meeting, we'll have an even more comprehensive update. But essentially, the group have reviewed the risk registers. They've looked at the emerging risks. We've reviewed the strategy because this was the first time the group met. I needed everybody in the group to be fully aware of what we're trying to achieve. And obviously the COVID specific issues that are very present today. So at 1.13, you'll notice there that in the strategic risk register, the biggest change to it at this stage, because it's still being reviewed now, is that we've added a specific one around COVID-19. Within the strategic risk register, we've always had one for business continuity and emergency planning arrangements. This is in addition to that, so they need to be viewed together. But the list of the risks and the consequences identified in there, and then the action to mitigate against those risks is also included, which includes the fact that we are very well embedded within the local resilience forum and the network of subgroups. You've heard reports from Karen on a regular basis in different forums around COVID. We've done extremely well, I think, in getting plugged into that whole network and contributing to it. So that's identified in the register now. The other thing I'd add, without reading the report word for word, is really to underline a point that was made earlier by the chair and others about audit and where our focus may or may not be. The intention of this risk management group is very much about also having an influence on our own internal audit program, because we ought to be focusing on areas of greatest risk. And I think that's something that's accepted by Jenny and others on that group. So the recommendations, Chair, are at 6.1. The committee notes the report and the strategic risk register, and I'm happy to take any questions on that. But I would finally like to say we hope to bring this back regularly, a report that is a dynamic one, a retrospective one, setting out what the risk management group does each time. So it'll be a moving feast rather than a cut and paste job.
Thank you. Well, you're almost beating me to my next question really about this, because the risk management group, we don't know the membership of it and why nobody from audit is part of that risk management group, which would be my first question. It seems that we're discussing audit type considerations, and yet no one from audit is on there apart from officers. So I beat to it, Jenny. Yeah, apart from officers, yeah, we do have no elected member from this group. The other thing is accountability. So you're saying that we will now start to receive reports. Section 151 officer will probably guess what I'm going to say next. Will it be old news? Because there's no point in having something that's already been talked about and dealt with at risk management group, and then we have had no input. We're just almost told as a fait accompli that that's what's been decided and that's that, rather than having an input and us being able to shape documents and maybe make some suggestions, or at least say from the audit that our recommendations are X, Y, and Z. I don't believe in having them retrospectively. There'd be no point.
Okay, Chair, can I?
Yes, over to you, Lee.
So, two things. First of all, I would absolutely welcome somebody from Audit Committee to sit on the risk management group. I think that's a great suggestion. It is elected member led. It's the portfolio holder for finance and resources, Councillor Parkin, who chairs the group. I see absolutely no reason, and I think it would be beneficial for a member of this committee to be on that group. In terms of the report, I accept what's just been said, and either a forward plan element within the report might be useful for this group, so that this group can feed directly into it. But certainly a member of this group on it. I'd be happy for that, Councillor Thacker, and I'm not sure if you want to suggest a nominee.
I'm not looking for extra work for myself, although I'm not discounting myself. I've got enough on with the spy rights. But I think the committee ought to have a representative on, and I think one of the things we ought to do is consider electing from our committee who could go on that risk management group. So it's not politically led. It could be anyone from any group that's from our committee that is chosen by audit to go on to that group. And I think that's something that perhaps we ought to put onto our next agenda so that we can agree somebody who should be part of that risk management group. And also on the next agenda, I would like to see a framework of when those meetings take place, so that we can see what sort of topics are covered in your forward plan that you referred to, Lee, so that we can mirror that in some of our agendas, so that we can actually discuss things in advance of those risk management groups. And whoever our representative is could also talk about that issue when they go to the group as well. So add weight to the papers that we are putting forward. So that's my view. Councillor Shipman?
Might it be useful if we actually see the different jobs of both of these groups? Because, I mean, I'm getting the impression they're doing a similar job, although I would have thought that the other group does the day-to-day kind of overview of everything, but it comes here to be kind of signed off as the scrutiny committee. Is that right?
It's partly that way, but if we're not careful, we'll have made it that way, because what we are not is a rubber stamping exercise. The audit committee needs to scrutinise, ask those questions, and also hold to account. That's what we're here for. So I think rather than just receiving it, if it's old news, as some reports in the past have been, then even if we have got valid points to make, it's too late. Decision's been made. So I think it's a way of turning it the other way around, so that we can actually be part of the thought-making process. And then even if it is, you know, as I say, if we've got the forward plan, we can try and put things in advance of that risk management group so that we can add to it. If we want to, we can still, as an audit committee, still scrutinise anything that comes from it. So we get two bites of the same cherry. That's how I see it. Mrs. Sternberg.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if this is any help or not, but your terms of reference include monitor the effective development and operation of risk management in the council.
Thank you. That's it. That's a succinct answer.
Did you say that was ours, Sarah, or did you say that's the other group?
No, this is your terms of reference, the audit and corporate governance scrutiny.
Yes. In other words, we can roam where we like.
No, Chair.
No, we can't roam where we like. No. I was just putting my own legal spin on it. If we have the next meeting, though, we have what the risk management group remit is, because there'll be some things that maybe don't fall within audit, then that's fair enough. But I think the things that do, and it's listed at 1.9, there are plenty of things that are in our remit. It may be worth, if the committee decides ultimately that's not what they want, then that's what we don't want. But let's have more information to make an informed decision at our next meeting. Is everyone in agreement with that?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Right. Okay. Any other comments or questions on the report? If not, can we move to recommendations at 6.1? Can we have a proposer, please? Proposed by Council. Thank you. That is carried. Thank you. So we move to item 7, report to the head of finance and resources and section 151 officer. Over to you, please, Jane. Corporate debt.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, agenda item 7A, the first of my reports today. This is the standard report that the Audit Committee received with regards to corporate debt that we did to the 31st of October to align with the agenda. There's nothing major to report, I'm pleased to say. Sundry Debtors is holding its own. Whilst if you turn to Appendix 1 on page 113, you will see rather a lot of current debt sitting within that category, 1.5 million. I just wanted to assure the committee that the majority of that was a result of just a handful of invoices. The last committee, and it's not reported as part of this standard report, but we are still pursuing our recovery timetable with regards to COVID and with regards to council tax and business rates, which is it is challenging, and we will continue to report that to you through this committee as time progresses. I'm not proposing to go through all the detail unless anybody's got anything that they'd like to ask me specifically. I will try and answer. Thank you,
Any
Chair.
comments or questions? If not, then can we move to recommendations at 6.1, that we note the report concerning the council's corporate debt as at the 31st of October 2020. Have a proposer, please.
I'll move,
Councillor
Chair.
Clough, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Shipman. All in favour? Thank you, that is carried. So we move to the report B, benchmarking. I'm pleased to see this has been brought. Thank you, Jane. So back to you.
No problem at all. Thank you, Chair. This is the report the committee asked me to present for this meeting at the last meeting. It's very insightful doing it, so I do hope that you enjoyed reading it. I won't go through all of it in detail. I know, I'm an accountant. It's all for everybody else, interesting for me, I'm sure. I won't go through all of the detail because I wouldn't want you to suffer from my affliction of being obsessed with numbers, but I will just pick out the highlights if that's okay with you and run through the specific tables. So what's been happening since March is that the Ministry of Housing and Local Government, MHCLG, have been collecting data on a national basis on the impact of COVID in terms of both income and expenditure. So it's allowed us to be able to summarise our position and analyse it against what's happening nationally. I'm pleased to say that in the main we are following the national trend largely. And you will see on table 1 in Appendix 1 that additional expenditure of £3.6 billion has been incurred by local authorities in the first half of the year. The trends tend to match the council type. So, for example, in districts, it's quite diverse. There's quite a wide spread of how it's been incurred. Whereas with counties and those with responsibility for social care, it's very much centred on that particular service that they provide. Moving on to table 3, that looks at the income losses, and this is the one that's affected us the most. So table 3 and table 4 both present a position of income losses. As you'll see from the tables, the districts and those with responsibility for leisure facilities, collecting council tax and collecting business rates are being particularly hard hit. The national position, £4.6 billion, is an awful lot of money that we're going to have to try and. Some of it's recoverable, to be fair. Council tax and business rates is recoverable, but income loss from sales fees and charges is gone, and that can't be recovered. Graph 1 plots the national position regards council tax and business rates losses, so I think it shows quite nicely that there was a huge peak to start with, and then with council tax it has started to flatten out a little bit now. Business rates, unfortunately, that we're in and out. Their ability to pay, as you would expect. Graphs 2 and 3 pie charts, which have got awful lot of information on them, but just to highlight really that our position is very much mirroring the national position, that the main areas that we're losing out on, it's not necessarily an expenditure issue for us, it's an income loss issue. And you can see that business rates before I take any questions that you may have. The housing revenue accounts across the country, and the same for us, aren't being that badly affected by the COVID pandemic. Rents collections pretty good. It's not that much lower than we would expect. And the overall impact compared to council's general funds across the country is only 1.4%. So if there is any good news out of all of this, is that the council's housing revenue accounts across the country aren't being adversely affected. So after I've overloaded you with numbers, Chair, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Well, yeah, I think, can we just come back to a couple of bits of bad news?
Yes, certainly.
I think we can't carry on without mentioning Croydon. I think people know Croydon Council has issued a Section 114 notice, so basically saying that they're bankrupt. And we have a medium-term investment with Croydon, 3 million.
We do indeed, Chair, yes.
So I think we need to have a bit of a discussion about that. I'm sure people will agree. And of course, the second part of the big news is the negative interest rate risk. I think we need to have a little bit more detail about that. So can I draw you back to those 2 points, please?
You certainly can, Chair. Yes, it wasn't the best day when I realised that we've got an investment with Croydon, having discovered that they just issued a Section 114 notice. I have taken advice from our Treasury advisors on that and been assured that in actual fact, all the 114 notice prevents future spend and ongoing spend, which doesn't affect existing investments. So because we'd already invested with them and because the duration will almost undoubtedly exceed the time for the Section 114 notice, they tend to be time limited, the Section 114 notices, until the resolution is made through council to set a revised budget. It is very unlikely that our risk, we will have a higher risk than the day before the Section 114 notice. So, I'd just like to offer the committee some assurances on that point.
So you're saying it's unlikely?
You
can't rule it out.
Can never rule out that risk, and
but,
you know.
I think the committee would want to be reassured, as you say, it is unlikely, but we will be keeping a very close monitoring of what's happening with Croydon. I've said this before, and you may recall a couple of years ago I referred to lending money to other councils. It's part of our investment strategy, and we've lent to councils that I've questioned previously. And here we are now with an example of one that's struggling for various reasons. It won't be the only one, I'm sure, and there's rumours of others that are looking at Section 114 notices. And I think our portfolio needs to think about that and keeping one eye to council investment and whether that's the way we want to be in the future. So I think I would welcome your comments on that.
Yeah, absolutely, Chair. It's a very difficult one for us because local authorities have always been deemed, along with national government, as the safest option. And now we're seeing situations whereby I don't believe the risk is high for local authorities still particularly, but we're seeing unprecedented numbers of local authorities who can't balance their budgets. So it does put a new light on that. The Chair has asked me to invite the Treasury Management Consultants to come to the next meeting, which will also be the meeting that will review the committee will review the annual Treasury Management Strategy. So I think there could be some interesting debate around these points because it is absolutely valid. It's very difficult to know where your money is safe these days.
Yeah, thank you. And the negative interest rate risk?
Yes, this is an interesting one. We've not been hit by it yet. Interestingly enough, the government account, the safest account there is out there, something called the DMADF, which is government-backed funding, is one of the first to go into negative interest rates, but it's on the short-term stuff, and we've been tending to lock money away for a couple of months at a time, so it's not hit us yet, but it's almost undoubtedly at some point going to impact on us, and we'll actually end up paying the banks to look after our money, which is somewhere that I never thought we'd be. But yeah, absolutely, we'll keep an eye on that and keep reporting that to the committee.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Armitage?
Thank you, Chair. It's have we got any other local authorities who've loaned money from us on our portfolio? And don't we employ somebody to check on all of this and to monitor it? I mean, what have they been doing to let us get dropped in with Croydon in this manner?
If I may come back, Councillor Armitage, yes, we actually have. We've got Gosport Borough Council and we've got Slough Borough Council, although the Slough one has now ended. Sorry. We do an awful lot of due diligence, and we do employ Treasury Management Consultants who specialise in this. The difficulty is until the Section 151 officer announces the 114 notice, the credit rating of any local authority will be very, very high. It will be the best rating that there is. And it'll only be if there's signs through committee reports or internal rumblings, I guess, that we would actually, even the consultants would get any inclination or any indication that there could be a problem. So it's a really difficult one. Whereas with industry, you generally start to get a feel or a sign that something's just not quite right through the blue chip companies and the banks, etc. With a local authority, until Section 114 notice is served, the credit rating would remain high. So, but we are doing all the due diligence that we can.
Do we have any comeback on these people who have advised us? I mean, surely, you know, they're taking a fee all the time. I mean, are they covered with the third-party liability? And do we have a redress on this?
Okay.
Well, we've gone into 8C, but yeah, but we're covering 2 reports in one here, value for money. So,
yeah, two for the price of one. Absolutely, Councillor Armitage. Yeah, they would be covered and would have redress. At this stage, there's no concerns, so I don't think that would be an issue. However, if we did get into difficulties, you can be rest assured that there'd be some very tense conversations going on between myself and the Treasury consultants over this matter, because of course we do follow their advice and we do seek their advice. But I can't say I'm 100% confident because that would be unprofessional of me, but I don't perceive this as a risk to the council. I don't believe that the money is at risk. I think if we were going into this today, then I would be saying, no, we won't go anywhere near them. Having said that, there are other local authorities that are still lending to these councils because they're still deemed a better risk than some of the banks.
Also the high street businesses. I mean, we've all seen what's happened this week.
Yeah.
It's really sad as well. So I think it's difficult to know where to invest, but that's questions. They're questions we can save for when we get the visit at the next meeting.
Absolutely, Chair.
Any other comments or questions? I think the exercise, I will say, in benchmarking has been very useful, and I'm glad it's been done, and I think it's been useful for officers as well. I think it, in some ways, reassuring, and there is good news in there, as well as those things that highlights some of the issues that we do need to keep a very careful eye on. So having said all that, can we move to recommendations that 6.1, that we note the report? The proposer, please. Councillor Clubb, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Armitage. All in favour? Thank you, that's carried. So we now move to the Treasury Management update. I think we've asked them all. We've brought Croydon in, we've done everything already, but back to Section 151 officer, in case there's anything we haven't unturned. Oh.
Thank you, Chair. There isn't anything that we want to know. We have covered all of those matters and the rest. I did just want to apologise because it was an oversight on my part. This report should have come to the committee before it went to full council last month. So that was just a complete oversight on my part, and I do appreciate you should have the opportunity to scrutinise it in the first place. So I will make sure that next time it comes in first.
I think that's you preempting my comment.
I thought
I
so,
think
Chair.
you guessed what I was going to say. So you've now robbed me of my own sentence. Are there any other comments or questions from anybody else? Apart from this is old news.
I know.
So if not, move to recommendations at 6.1. Can we have a proposal, please? Thank you, Councillor Shipman. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Rowe. All in favour? Thank you. That is carried. So we now move to item 8, report to the Head of Corporate Governance and Monitoring Officer on the Corporate Work Plan. Mrs. Sternberg, please.
Thank you, Chair. As the report says, this is to enable you to consider your work plan for the remainder of the municipal year. This is a living document. It's not static. It gives a structure and sets the dates for certain things you have to do at certain times, and all encompassed within the terms of reference of the committee. If you actually turn to page 136, where you've got the work plan, from today's meeting, for example, on the 20th of January, we should add in the mismanagement group and your considerations on membership of that. And on the 10th of February meeting, in addition, I would like to add a review of the Code of Corporate Governance, which is something I have to achieve by the end of the financial year. So it should be coming to you in February. But other than that, it's for comment, Chair.
Have you had any business? this is the business management one as well to the 20th of January that we agreed after looking at performance.
Business
targets.
risk.
Yeah, the recovery plans. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll add that in too, Chair.
Thank you, Jenny.
Chair, could I just clarify if do you want the whole report again or just the?
No, we said that we would drill down into that bit because the priority needed to be amended, and we need to look at how business recovery is going to be a bit more imminent.
Lovely. Just in terms of fighting the fraud and corruption locally, that just does depend on whether SITFA have issued their results of their survey or not. They've not published it yet. If they publish it in time, I'll bring it to that meeting, but otherwise there might be a delay.
Yeah. No, I think if we leave it where it is, but subject to if you say there's a delay, we'll just put it back to the next meeting after that. Thank you. That's out of our hands, isn't it, until SITFA release it. Lee?
Thank you, Chair. Just to be absolutely clear, because I don't want things to get lost in translation. The item that we were talking about earlier on was business continuity and emergency planning. It emanated from that medium action. That's, just to be clear, that's different to the outward facing business recovery work. So I just wanted to be absolutely certain.
Yes.
What you needed.
Yeah, it's that part of the plan that's specific. In that plan, we just want to drill down more information, have a bit more of a detailed report about what's behind it and how we're going to, in this COVID situation, make that a bit more imminent.
Thank you, Chair.
I hope that's made it clearer. Any other comments or questions about the work plan? I think we've got enough to be going on with. If not, then move to recommendations. 6.1. Can we have a proposal? Recommend. Thank you, Councillor Clough. Seconded by Councillor Armitage. All in favour? Thank you. That's carried. And then item 9. No other matters of urgency. So item 10. I move that the public be excluded from the meeting during the discussion of the following item of business, to avoid the disclosure to them of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 1 and 3, part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972, as amended by the Local Government Access to Information Variation Order 2006. Do we have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Rowe. All in favour? Thank you, that's carried. So we need to stop the live stream, please.